Cain and Abel. Then Adam had intercourse with his wife, and she became pregnant. She bore a son and said, "By the Lord's help I have acquired a son." So she named him Cain. Later she gave birth to another son, Abel. Abel became a shepherd, but Cain was a farmer. After some time, Cain brought some of his harvest and gave it as an offering to the Lord. Then Abel brought the first lamb born to one of his sheep, killed it, and gave the best parts of it as an offering. The Lord was pleased with Abel and his offering, but he rejected Cain and his offering. Cain became furious, and he scowled in anger. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why that scowl on your face? If you have done the right thing, you would be smiling, but because you have done evil, sin is crouching at your door. It wants to rule you, but you must overcome it." Then Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out in the fields." When they were out in the fields, Cain turned on his brother and killed him. The Lord asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" He answered, "I don't know. Am I supposed to take care of my brother?" Then the Lord said, "Why have you done this terrible thing? Your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground, like a voice calling for revenge. You are placed under a curse and can no longer farm the soil. It has soaked up your brother's blood, as if it had opened its mouth to receive it when you killed him. If you try grow crops, the soil will not produce anything. You will be a homeless wanderer on the earth." And Cain said to the Lord, "This punishment is too hard for me to bear. You are driving me off the land and away from your presence. I will be a homeless wanderer on the earth, and anyone who finds me will kill me." But the Lord answered, "No, if anyone kills you, 7 lives will be taken in revenge." So the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn anyone who meets him not to kill him. And Cain went away from the Lord's presence and lived in a land called Wandering, which is in the east of Eden. The descendants of Cain. Cain and his wife had a son and named him Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son. Enoch had a son named Irad, who was the father of Mehujael. And Mehujael had a son named Methuselah, who was the father of Lamech. Lamech had 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal, who was the ancestor of those who raise livestock and live in tents. His brother was Jubal, the ancestor of all musicians who play the harp and the flute. Zillah gave birth to Tubal Cain, who made all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Listen to me. I have killed a young man because he struck me. If 7 lives are taken to pay for killing Cain, 77 will be taken if anyone kills me." Seth and Enosh. Adam and his wife had another son. She said, "God has given me a son to replace Abel, whom Cain killed." So she named him Seth. Seth had a son whom he named Enosh. It was then that people began using the Lord's holy name in worship. The descendants of Adam. This is the list of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, He made them like Himself. He created them male and female, blessed them and named them mankind. When Adam was 130 years old, he had a son who was like him, and he named him Seth. After that, Adam lived another 800 years. He had other children and died at the age of 930. When Seth was 105, he had a son Enosh, and then lived another 807 years. He had other children and died at the age of 912. When Enosh was 90, he had a son Cain, and then lived another 815 years. He had other children and died at the age of 905. When Cain was 70, he had a son Mahalalel, and then lived another 840 years. He had other children and died at the age of 910. When Mahalalel was 65, he had a son Jared, and then lived another 830 years. He had other children and died at the age of 895. When Jared was 162, he had a son Enoch, and then lived another 800 years. He had other children and died at the age of 962. When Enoch was 65, he had a son Methuselah. After that, Enoch lived in fellowship with God for 300 years and had other children. He lived to be 365 years old. He spent his life in fellowship with God, and then he disappeared because God took him away. When Methuselah was 187, he had a son Lamech, and then lived another 782 years. He had other children and died at the age of 969. When Lamech was 182, he had a son and said, "From the very ground on which the Lord put a curse, this child will bring us relief from all our hard work." So he named him Noah. Lamech lived another 595 years. He had other children and died at the age of 777. After Noah was 500 years old, he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The wickedness of mankind. When mankind had spread all over the world and girls were being born, some of the heavenly beings saw that these girls were beautiful, so they took the ones they liked. Then the Lord said, "I will not allow people to live forever. They are mortal. From now on they will live no longer than 120 years. In those days and even later, there were giants on the earth who were descendants of human women and the heavenly beings. They were the great heroes and famous men of long ago. When the Lord saw how wicked everyone on earth was and how evil their thoughts were all the time, he was sorry that he had ever made them and put them on the earth. He was so filled with regret that he said, "I will wipe out these people I have created and also the animals and birds, because I am sorry that I made any of them. But the Lord was pleased with Noah.